So Jack Swarbrick was on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday.
Of course he was.
So while we were talking to John Curry, and we had a really great candid conversation with him. If you missed it, check it out on yesterday's show or check it out on the YouTube channel. But Swarbrick is in studio with Dan Patrick as they're getting ready for week 0 and everything else.
Of course he was.
I think they were in New York, if I'm not mistaken. And here is Swarbrick giving the game away. The true reason why these presidents want to add Cal and Stanford.
We need to find a home for Stanford and Cal. That you can't have two of the great academic institutions in the world not have a place to play.
That's
let's go get Oxford too. Then
that's their problem.
That's the standard, right?
This is true, but that's their problem, not your problem. Okay. Now, mind you, I keep saying this. Notre Dame would solve a lot of problems if they joined a damn conference.
How about some of this pronoun usage? We and they.
Huh?
Notre Dame.
What? Anyway,
you ain't a we, Notre Dame.
So it continues.
What kind of solution you got?
We're working on it.
Meaning?
Well, there's still consideration of the ACC as a home for those schools.
Okay. And Notre Dame is lobbying for Stanford and Cal to join?
Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Pac-12 dies?
It's looking that way more and more every day, yes.
Or how much is with what's gone on with, and the people in power who are making these, the kids are going to be the kids, but you got grown-ups who have made decisions that seem like they're just based on money.
Yeah, well, they're certainly based on money. There's no question. And some of that is the demands that have arisen over time to find more revenue to meet this requirement or this requirement. So I'm not terribly comfortable with the description of it as greed, but it is all about money.
It's not greed, but it's all about money. So anyway, that's Jack Swarbrick with the Dan Patrick Show. It's not greed. No. It's about greed and coming from a Catholic upbringing. Trust me, I know a thing or two about the Catholic Church and how they like their money. So more money is always a good thing. They're always hitting me up for more money. Point here is that Swarbrick is like the hot dog suit guy from I Think You Should Leave, that Netflix show that's become a meme. He spent the majority of that conversation with Dan Patrick talking about it's a mess. I don't know how we got here. No, you do know how you got here because you made the decisions to get us here, which leaves these institutions that you cherish theoretically just grasping for a conference to call home. And then now you want to drag the ACC into this mess to give them a home when really it doesn't do much of anything to help the ACC out.
It's an interesting case study, isn't it? Stanford is the best run athletic department in the country.
Yes.
Has been. They win the Directors Cup every single year, other than the first year when Carolina won it. Every single year, they win it. They have, from A to Z, they have the most complete athletic department. Cal, inarguably, has the worst run athletic department. They're broke. They're beyond broke. They're long, like the amount I owe on my mortgage. I always tell when I re-up on a mortgage, I always tell them, do not tell me what I have to pay you back.
Yeah.
I made the mistake on the college loan of looking at what I have to pay back.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, we're borrowing 20 grand and we have to pay back 75 grand. Exponentially multiply that for Cal. Those are all the mistakes Cal has made. Cal does not deserve a life raft. They do not deserve anyone to save them. It's time for someone to tap out. It's time for Cal to tap out, drop down, either play in the West Coast Conference, try to play as an independent in football, play Stanford every year, get your board of regents to get USC and UCLA to schedule as a non-conference game, and just tap out.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, you know how we always talk about with NIL and the reckoning that's coming with NIL and how the market always finds its level. Well, Cal, the market found its level. You're gone. I'm sorry. This is how it works. Stanford, I feel bad for you in the sense that you couldn't make a better deal while you were riding high under Harbaugh and even David Shaw. But them's the breaks. And you know what? I think Stanford would be better off as an independent, just like Notre Dame, and joining that West Coast Conference, letting their unbelievable non-revenue sports compete regionally.
Well, because Anson Dorrance doesn't want Cal and Stanford to be playing.
And guess what? By the way, Anson, with all of his titles, has earned the right to share his opinion, by the way.
The people who are mad at Anson Dorrance, like he doesn't want to compete, buddy, he's been competing and
forever.
He's been whooping everybody's
ass. Get out of here.
So he said,
and let him say it.
Let him say it.
Yeah, let him talk.
I love Bubba Cunningham, but man, Bubba Cunningham spends more time as the athletics director at North Carolina telling his coaches to apologize or even players in certain cases like Drake May, when they have nothing to apologize for. So if he says, let Stanford and Cal wither on the vine, yeah, that's fine with me.
But
Good for him.
I think this is a win. I think this, just like us getting thrown out on a Wednesday, I think this is a win for Stanford.
Possibly.
I think their non-revenue sports will be fine.
Possibly.
Go get a loan from Tiger Woods, by the way. You have plenty of people who can help you.
Hey, that's future ACC legend Tiger
Go
Woods.
get a loan from Tiger. You got plenty of money. Look at the money that Wake raises. You don't, seriously. We've seen this at locally where ECU got rid of a tennis program and a swimming program, and people were like up in arms. And it's like, all of a sudden, all this money comes in. Maryland, I think one of their programs, all of a sudden, I think it was wrestling, like magically raised all this money, right? Florida State's talking about how we're going to raise money from a
Saudi investment
from
fund.
from the PIF to get out of our problems, to get out of the ACC contract. Why not just use that money? If you said this there, I'm serious right now. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. We got thrown out on a Wednesday. We went and found people to help us. Stanford's been thrown out. You don't think all of those titles, all of those championships in all of those sports, that they can't find people to raise money for them and that they won't be better off not going to Winston-Salem on a Tuesday, that they won't be better off not going to Miami on a Thursday?
Yeah.
They will be. They can be just fine. I can't speak for Cal, but I'll say this for Cal. You had your shot. You blew it. And maybe this is just the world telling you, you are so far underwater. You now are better off taking your stadium that you are so far underwater on and raising it and putting condos on and making money and play all the other sports in the West Coast Conference.
I would love to have beers.
You're welcome. I just solved all your problems, Stanford and Cal, and it doesn't require any charity from the ACC.
And doesn't Stanford have like their football coordinator positions funded by
Stanford's got
grants?
stacks on stacks,
Stacks
man.
of cash, man. I would love to have beers with Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner right now, because maybe it's the era that we live in. And I know Holden Thorpe talked to us a couple of weeks ago, the former chancellor at UNC, and he hated Twitter because, I said one thing and next thing you know, I see it on Twitter, right?
Well, this is coming from Notre Dame. All of this is coming from Stanford and Cal.
And that's, thank you. If this is coming from Notre Dame,
let's
I'm
play
Jim
guess
Phillips,
the source here,
I
kids.
would love to know if Jim Phillips sees this stuff and is immediately texting Swarbrick or getting on the phone with Swarbrick and saying, would you shut the hell up, man? We acquiesced so many things for you. The very least thing you could do for us is to have some freaking dignity and show some freaking respect to the league that saved your ass in 2020 and is essentially giving you all the other things that help you out, and not go on the Dan Patrick show and straight up cause more uncertainty for the ACC. When I tell you, if Notre Dame was to join a conference full time, what would you say? What is the thing that we know? If Notre Dame's going to join a
grant
conference,
of rights with the ACC.
Okay, that goes through 2036. So again, let me repeat this. If Notre Dame's going to join the conference or join a conference, it's contractual. It's in the grant of rights that they would join the ACC. Otherwise, there's going to be a lawsuit and there's going to be some money that it changes hands. Here's Jack Swarbrick on the Dan Patrick show, acting as though this grant of rights doesn't exist.
What would you have to hear to join a conference?
That we didn't have a media partner. That we didn't have a fair path to the college football playoff.
If the NBC media plan was not there, would Notre Dame be in a conference?
Yeah, if we didn't have somebody else who was willing to step up, yes.
Okay. And would that be the Big Ten?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do know.
It'd be interesting to have that discussion with each of the available conferences.
You haven't had those discussions before?
We've had lots of inquiries. We've never negotiated for participation.
You have negotiated with the ACC and the grant of rights, where if you join a conference, you go to the ACC. Why is Jack Swarbrick lying? I don't understand. Go to confession. Give me some Hail Marys. Give me a Lord's Prayer, Jack. Because Lord knows I'd have to do that. Sister Ellen would be telling me, hey, go get the rosary.
How does that work when there's inquiries? What happens?
Usually it's a president-to-president call. where someone from a conference, a president from a conference, is assigned to call, in this case, Father Jenkins, and say, maybe are you considering a different path? And we say no.
And then it gets down to you. Are you involved in the process after that?
Yeah.
With the phone call?
I typically am. Yeah.
What's the closest Notre Dame's ever come to joining a conference?
Let me answer that for you. 2020, when they joined the ACC. Oh, and before that, when they did the new granite rights and they partnered with the ACC. But let's see what Jack Swarbrick has to say.
I don't know that it was particularly close, but if we hadn't been able to find a home for our Olympic sports with the ACC, maintaining football independence would have been problematic. We needed a partner who would allow our Olympic sports to participate at the level we want them to.
It took 90 seconds to finally get to some respect for the ACC.
And I guess it's not as lucrative having your own, TV network, but joining the ACC, you're there with other sports. You do play some ACC schools, but is that a possibility down the road?
Well, all the major conferences are a possibility.
They are? Is Jim Phillips going, Jack, texting? Anyway, he continues.
We play hockey in the Big Ten. We have the other Olympic sports in the ACC. And
because the ACC doesn't have hockey. Anyway, that was Jack Swarbrick on with Dan Patrick. And as you can see, I'm getting very, very incensed hearing that clip again. I was super pissed when I watched it yesterday on YouTube. And if I'm Jim Phillips, I'd be like, buddy, why? Just why? Just answer that for me. Why?
The Notre Dame relationship is so complicated.
It really is.
Because they all want to be Notre Dame's AD. They all went to Notre Dame. They all have a reverence for Notre Dame. Swarbrick now leaves his throne after making sure the playoff was expanded and
to go back
to include Notre Dame.
To go back before we start talking financials to talk about your Scarlett Johansson reference.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's never going to sleep with you.
Correct. Correct.
Sorry.
This is as close as you're getting. I will just cut the analogy off there.